Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stars and Stripes throwback season. It is season 6 of the Stars and Stripes, and here tonight, it's round 6 of the season. The drivers ready to conquer their first true test of the concrete this year. The drivers, the 1 mile course, better known as the Monster Mile. Drivers practicing, ready for all the action. We're glad to give you all of it here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Hall. Zach, man, this track, working, inching closer and closer to halfway of the regular season. How are you feeling coming tonight?
Excited, Sam. This is going to be fun to watch. Like you said, first concrete exploration of the season here for these guys. They get to test out their skills here in this ARCA car around the high banks of Dover Downs. So, going to be an interesting one all night. We're going to be talking a lot about tire wear and trying to keep those tires underneath you for a majority of the night. But this track's so fast and so difficult also because around any one of these corners, it can bite you. You fall a full 3 stories from the entry of the corner all the way to the center. Then you climb back those 3 stories on the exit. So these exits and entries of these corners are always tricky as you enter into the high bank. So it'll be fun to see who can conquer it here tonight. And I believe also in the past, nobody is a 2-time winner here. So it's going to be a possible chance for someone to get that second win that we haven't seen in many times they've ran here.
Nobody's a 2-time winner at this track. And also touching on this season, no one has been a 2-time pole sitter this season just yet. 5 races in, and we've had 5 different drivers taking the pole. It was Kevin O'Keefe who got it back at Daytona. That of Brandon Messick got it back at Legacy, Texas. Christopher Wade at Michigan. That of Sonoma, it was Scott Rickard. Then last week at Homestead, it was Kyle McCoy. Could we see our first 2-time pole sitter award being grabbed here tonight? It's time to find out. Drivers underway with qualifying. Drivers going to have 2 laps to finish out their qualifying, as they've got a total of 5 minutes. They feel like waiting, they can if they want to go out immediately. We are already seeing those drivers out on track, as Derek Offerman, one of the drivers to watch out for here tonight. Winner of season 1 at this track, the 20, hoping for a good qualifying run as he comes out of turn number 2.
Qualifying can be very, very important here at this track, not only, but also here at Stars and Stripes due to them not having stage breaks. So this race could go all the way green. There is a possibility for those chances, and if you start up front, you're able to give yourself the best chance to be up front when this race does get going green. So we'll see how it all plays out, but times are coming through, and Dylan Grimm at the moment in that 17 machine, top of the board in front of Ross Tatum in the 21. It looks like the second laps around have been the fastest way, other than Dylan Grimm on his first lap. He would have put it down there, but we'll see who can get it done. Is now Grimm even going to top his first time there with a 23:37. So it's looking like that second lap is the way to go.
Dylan Grimm's been great at qualifying so far this season for the 17. He has been 3rd twice. That's his best positioning starting off. Trying to get his pole potentially here. There's going to be the 43 of Brian Chu. Trying to finish out their qualifying run, and it's going to be 13th best for that of Brian Chu. It's going to pull off to the bottom. Still half the field waiting to come in and start their times. But Zach, this track, you touched on it, the high banking, at that of 24 degrees. Total banking for both sides of these corners. Straightaways, 9 degrees of banking at this 1 mile concrete. Kind of what drivers call a roller coaster that you control, as still seeing times as we're at halfway of qualifying coming on through.
And that's a great point you bring up about the 9 degrees also of banking on the straightaways. Those can have detrimental effects when it comes to wrecks here. So these drivers are going to have to watch out. It's what we like to call a term of a self-cleaning racetrack. When a wreck happens up top, it's normally going to slide down from the top of that racetrack down to the bottom due to that banking being around the whole circuit. So it's going to be one of those nights where you got to watch things unfold if there is a wreck, and you got to pick and navigate your way through. And also not very much room also to navigate there with those inside walls on the back and even on that front straightaway.
Will Bustler going to be trying his hand, but not able to go too far. Going to be 8th on the board for himself. Thomas Ogle going to have an incredible qualifying run up to 3rd. You see our board clicking on up. But here's the 8 machine, Jason Grattan in the 8 of the Dale Earnhardt Jr. scheme. This scheme has gotten to that of victory lane before. It was back in 2001 where Dale Earnhardt Jr. found himself in victory lane, and Jason Grattan hoping for that 2001 magic to strike. 15th on the board on this first lap, hitting the backstretch and down into turn number 3. Grattan this season hoping for a good finish for himself. He's 10th in points currently, and he's sending all of it in too much at the end and clobbers the wall. That is going to negate his time. 15th is the best for the 8.
Just got a little bit loose there for Jason Grattan coming out of 4 and could not hold onto that machine. And it shows you as you transition over from that 24 degrees banking out of the corner, you got to climb up out of these corners, and the car can get very, very light there. When the load and the weight of the car comes up off of it, the tires also want to come up off the ground, which then makes the grip level just not as good. So you're going to see moments like that throughout the night and possibly get even worse as the run goes on. So I think that's going to be a common syndrome we get to see, is now we're going to see Joshua Robinson, who's trying to figure out, his struggles, because we just saw Jason Grattan. He's been in the 8 machine this season, and last season he was in the final 4, just hasn't had the races to go along with it. And right here's another guy who was in that final 4, Joshua Robinson, and just like that, he goes to 5th on the board. So that's a great start for him.
This is probably one of the best qualifying times we've seen from that of Joshua Robinson, who's just been trying to figure out this car. Again, that's the fun thing about the Stars and Stripes. It's an ever-evolving series. Each season, it's been a different car, except for this season. They went back to what they started off in season 1 of that of the ARCA machines. But qualifying is done. It's time for us to settle in. It's going to be a long one. You see it on our board, 200 laps here tonight for the Monster Mile 200. Let's take a look at where the drivers are going to be starting off here this evening. Getting their first pole of the season and continuing with our trends, our 6th different pole sitter of the year. Dylan Grimm sits the top of the 17. Scott Rickard's going to be taking 2nd place. Thomas Ogle, great qualifying time for 31. He's going to be in 3rd. Nate Lynch, a fantastic time for the 1, going to be in 4th, with that of Joshua Robinson 5th. Kyle Bowling's going to be in 6th position with Ross Tatum in 7th. That of Andrew Hess going to be in 8th, with Tim McNally 9th, and Will Bustler taking your 10th place position.
Kevin O'Keefe's going to be here in the 11th position on the starting grid. The 48 of Brian Scalise going to be in the 12th position. 13th's going to go to the 25 Trey Jackson, with Derek Osborne, season 1 winner here, in 14th. 15th's going to go to Jonathan Woods. And then Jason Grattan there, we've seen him get loose and wreck it. He's going to end up being 16th here on the starting grid. 17th's going to go to Brian Lynch, with Aaron Hill in the 40, a previous winner here at Dover back in 18th. 19th's going to be Christopher Wade, and rounding out that top 20 is the 43 of Brian Chu.
Then in 21st position, going to be that of George Kovacic in the 66. Then Diego Valle still going to be starting in the back like we've been seeing. In the 77, get back up front, we'll find out. Going to be starting in 22nd position. Dylan Glass going to be in that 23rd. Zach Kreitz in 24th. Ed Perry 25th. And Richard Hertz going to be finishing out our 26 drivers here this evening. Our smallest field of the year, as drivers going to be settling in. Some love the challenge of Dover. Others wanted to step aside, take a break from this season, as Grimm's going to be starting up front. But Zach, like you said, there is no stages for this race. 200 laps, no fast repair, 3 extra sets of tires in pit road, and they're getting ready for this race this evening as they're pulling off.
Well, Sam, they call it the Monster Mile for a reason, because it can reach out and just grab you at any point. So I'm not surprised to see a few drivers skipping this racetrack. Like you said, it's very challenging and tough for them. So we'll see who can master it here tonight, keep the tires underneath them, and keep themselves out front, because track position is huge here. The speeds are very, very high with the high banking here. That means that clean air out front is very, very valuable. So you want to be able to keep yourself in that position all throughout the night. But as we've seen this season, we've had some big movers throughout the field. Diego Valle, after his big win last week, he's got to start back in the field again after a mistake on his second lap once again, as that's plagued him, but it hasn't stopped him from moving through the field before. So we'll get to see what happens, but it's going to be a fun night overall of 200 laps.
200 laps, and the trend has been 1 or 2 cautions. That means we could be seeing a lot of green flag racing here this evening. Pace car is off into the restart zone we are, and the Monster Mile 200 is green here tonight.
Scott Rickard with that great start on the outside. He may even clear the 17. Yes, he does through the center of the corner to 32. It's Scott Rickard, the most dominant driver this season, gets dominantly to the front already, and that's not a good sight to see for the rest of this field as they head down to turn 3.
It really is not. He's already won 3 times this season, and he has been on a trend of going for wins each and every time. And lap 1, going to go to the 32 machine. Dylan Grimm going to be staying in line, but like we saw from qualifying, drivers can get loose out of the corner. As the first lap, everyone's staying pretty well where they're at. 25 drivers took the grid. Dylan Glass still in pit road for the 29. He did not take off. We'll see if he gets back out there on track, as he is currently 1 lap down, going to continue to go down as Dylan Grimm falls back. Second place, now Thomas Ogle, the 31, looking like he wants the lead right now.
Thomas Ogle getting aggressive here early in this run here, trying, like you said, to get to the lead. He runs the top through the center of 1 and 2, and unfortunately he's having some connection issues also, but he drives it to the lead there and takes that position. So great job by Thomas Ogle there, but Scott Rickard and Dylan Grimm just give it up and say, you know what, go ahead, go out there and use your tires up, because again, this track has so much fall off with this high banking and concrete surface. The tires really just take the brunt of everything.
And this is kind of interesting to see, because I feel like we've touched on the last couple of ovals that we've watched, is the fact that Thomas Ogle's been one of the better drivers on the long run. Seems like he's going to switch and change up how he wants to race with strategy, being aggressive, pushing forward in the early going. And he's going to go for building up the gap as big as possible. And talking about trying to save their tires, got to be watching out for 5th and 6th place position. Al Bowling, Andrew Hess, those are 2 other drivers to watch out for.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Sam. Those 2 drivers always known for being very, very talented at saving the tires, but it's the battle behind him of Will Bustler in the 6 machine. He's starting to move forward here as he's got Scalise trying to follow him through, but Joshua Robinson at that 5th starting position, losing a few spots here early in this run. Maybe this is part of that plan to save those tires like we spoke of with the other drivers, but we'll see, because he needs a good run to get his season back on track after such a great season in that next-gen car.
Now we were seeing the battle of the Valvolines for a quick second. The 10 machine of Joshua Robinson running that of the number 10 Valvoline machine from the 2003 year of that of Johnny Benson Jr.'s 10 machine. And honestly, falling back as Joshua Robinson might be going with a little bit of more of extreme saving mode on these tires. It's not the worst thing to do, as he's got that of Jason Grattan behind him, but as well, you look deeper in the field. 14th season 1 winner in this car at this track, Derek Offerman. 14th, he's got Ross Tatum right in front of him.
He had such an excellent season 1 here in this car, and I think he wants to translate that here into season 6. So we'll see if he can start to do that, because it has been somewhat mediocre runs, but is wrecking behind back in the middle of the field.
And it's drivers piling in through 1 and 2. Those drivers being Aaron Hale and Zach Kreitz. You see there, Kreitz in the 9 Dodge machine. A little beat up is that 9. That's the driver behind him in the 40. Require damage for that of Aaron Hale.
Just got some help here, and Aaron Hale just nowhere for him to get out of this situation, because he's just running his line, running the bottom, slides up a little bit off the bottom, but it's the 77 of Valle, last week's winner, starting back in the field, being aggressive, gets into the rear bumper, and from there you can see it. I mean, it just pretty much destroyed that 40 machine, and unfortunately, like you said, he's got that required damage flag, as we're going to see another view from Zach Kreitz's view of the 9.
Yeah, and we're going to see the contact here, but watch out for Valle. He's going to slide up in front of Kreitz, gets lifted into the air, which sends the 77 into the wall. Same for that of Kreitz, trying to just hold on, and he's going to get clipped, and there's going to be Richard Hertz, who's also going to slide on through, but that's going to be 3 drivers. Heavy damage for themselves, but again, only driver with required damage is that 40 machine.
Tough break from a previous winner here at Dover. In season 4 there for Aaron Hale, was so good at saving the tires here previously. I think he was coming in tonight probably hoping for something similar, but with that required damage, it's going to be a long night probably of getting that car repaired, and maybe even losing a few laps here due to that repair. So we'll see how that works out for the 40, but at the moment it brings us to a little bit of a caution here, and this is an interesting timing for that caution too. Nobody electing to take tires just due to the being 4 sets of tires total here tonight. So you got 3 in pit road. This would be a waste of a set of tires here if you took one.
It certainly would, thinking that it could be a waste this early on. But I like the call for some of these drivers just to come in, top off on fuel. These drivers are given a range of around that of 80 to 82 laps that they can go on. Now, with the pacing of this first caution, might allow them to go a little bit further than that. But I mean, Zach, this is going to help them push it. If we get a couple of more quick cautions, could turn this race into a one stop for these drivers moving on forward, because it was looking to be a 2 to a 3 stop based on how aggressive these tires got beat up.
It can quickly turn into that, Sam, like you're saying, a one stop due to, the factor of the yellow flags. You save a ton of fuel here rolling around at pace speed. You got the 45-mile-an-hour pace speed compared to upwards of 160, 170 mile an hour around here at full, at full bore. So it's going to be a chance for these drivers to do that. And why not? If you're back there farther in the field, why not come down and top off? I think that is an excellent idea. So great job by a few of those drivers doing that. Other drivers getting damaged, repair, but Thomas Ogle there taking off, got to that lead and has pulled out to that sizable gap. Now it's all going to be reeled back in, and we'll see, can those tires fire off that well? Because sometimes that is the thing you play with, kind of like like you're playing with fire. Is you go out there, run those tires super hard, you get that gap build up, then you have a caution that brings everybody back in, and you're not going in to change tires due to the limited set of tires you have. Now he's going to be under threat here after possibly hurting those tires here to start this race.
Yeah, and we've seen this in other leagues that we cover here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. That early jump and then a quick caution comes out on how that's going to hurt a driver. So, like you said, we're going to have to really keep our eyes out on our leader of Thomas Ogle in that 31 machine, as the field is still pacing, getting ready to go back to green flag running here shortly, as we're on lap 11 of 200 here, as you're watching the Stars and Stripes Throwback Series, as we are here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name's Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr. in the background, giving you all the cameras and graphics this evening, running productions as drivers are stacking up, getting ready to go. And it's going to be Thomas Ogle, that is Scott Ricker, Dylan Grimm, Nate Lynch, Kyle Bowling, your top 5, with Andrew Hess, Will Bustler, that Brian Scalise, Timmy McNally, and Kevin O'Keefe, your top 10 here. Zach, as we're hitting the back stretch, about to go back to green flag racing, of the drivers that are in our top 10, who are you most surprised by from their qualifying run, and who are you expecting to try to maybe make that push forward after this quick caution?
Well, we've already seen Scalise gain a good bit from 12th up to 8th, so that's a very good job by him. I'm also kind of surprised to see Andrew Hess go from 8th to 6th, because we normally see that 5 machine save a ton of tire. Maybe just had a good restart, had the right lane going forward, so sometimes it's just how it plays out where you can gain spots that way. But I tell you, Sam, he's very good at saving tires. We've seen it at Michigan before. He lost that race there. It was very, very strong, and even strong at Homestead. We'll see if that can carry over here to Dover for that 5 machine.
Well, we were talking about how Valle had such a strong run throughout the season. Andrew Hess seems like the next driver in line to potentially get a win this season. 5 going to be all the way back in 6th place, as we are back to green flag racing for the Monster Mile 200. And Thomas Ogle fires off as he is already having a 3-car length lead over that of Dylan Grimm.
What a great job they're firing off there for that 31 machine. This can be a tough track to put the power down in that restart zone as you come up over the hill off the exit of 4. And everybody doing a great job there, keeping their cars nice and straight. No issues from anybody. But it looks like there's some battling back there around the 48 of Brian Scalise. He's got the 12 of Timmy McNally, the 23 of Kevin O'Keefe. All of them shaking up here, trying to find any little bit of position they can gain here early into this restart.
As all this battling that's happening right now, to be for 8th place between the 12, the 48, and the 23, as well as they're closing in on Will Bustler in the 6th machine. And all these machines, schemes that you'd love to have, as the 6 is found, that scheme's found itself in victory lane, as well as the 12. And that Brian Scalise probably has the best scheme you could ask for with the Jimmy Johnson Lowe's machine, as that Lowe's has gotten to victory lane five times here at Dover in real life. So hoping for that magic to carry over, as right now Scalise, one of our biggest movers of the race so far, up 3 spots that are in the top 10.
That is for sure, Sam. If you have the 48 scheme on here at Dover, you automatically gain a little bit of boost, in my opinion. So we'll see if Brian Scalise can make that happen here. Is the 23 Kevin O'Keefe all over the back bumper for himself, trying to move himself forward, and even Joshua Robinson back to 11th for the 10 machine after starting 5th. So he's definitely been on the side of losing positions, but now he's going to have Jason Gratton in the 8 machine. He's looking to go forward in that Budweiser machine and see if he can get up front.
You got to be careful if you're that of Joshua Robinson. If you pushed up too far high, you could be losing ground as everyone's stacked right on top of one another. But the same notion, you could easily find yourself causing a big one if you get into that outside wall, which is going to be a factor to watch out for all night long on if these drivers drift up too far. As a little bit of more action behind, that's Richard Hurst that you saw get a wiggle for the 19. Trying to hold on and get by that of some of the drivers ahead of him. Other drivers deeper in the field. You got Diego Valle, who is still struggling to move forward, but Zach, he is dealing with that damage from that first caution.
Very surprised to see how well that car looks after that wreck. I mean, it was pretty hurt on the right front fender. It had a lot of damage on the rear end. Whatever that crew did there for the number 77 Jasper machine, they really got that thing pretty well fixed up. I mean, the right front looks completely fine, so should be making good downforce and looking to maybe make up some of that time lost there after getting in the back of Aaron Hill and taking the 40 out of this race. So we'll see how this works out for this group. And another thing here at Dover that I'm interested to see as he gets the run here to the inside of this 22 machine, Brian Lynch, is how the lines will open up. You know, some drivers like to keep it right against that apron, that black apron down there, and then a lot of drivers like to let it wash up about a half a groove, and then some will even take it up even higher than that and diamond the corner to get that good straight exit off the corner to have a good run. So as the run goes on, I think you'll see more movement off this bottom line.
As we're riding on board with Diego Valle, who's getting a great shot of how you have to enter into these corners. Again, you touched on it, Zach. It almost a three-story drop, it feels like, from how far you go down to back up onto the racing surface, and dealing with the 24 degrees of banking through the corners. It is constant turning and feeling sideways at all times as that 77 trying to close in on Trey Jackson in the number 25.
In my opinion, it's always like they took Bristol and just supersized it here with Dover, as these are both concrete tracks here, but this one is definitely very, very fast. Bristol is also fast for a half a mile, but for a mile racetrack, this has got to be one of the fastest ones out there as you're turning your 23, 24-second laps for a full mile of a distance. It's very, very high speeds and takes a lot of guts there to make things happen. And whew, guts, we talk about, that's the 10 machine of Robinson. He really closed the door there on the 21 of Ross Taven, who cut him kind of a break.
He really did, and for all these drivers, they recognize, hey, we don't want to be caught up in a big, caught up in a wreck this early on. We're only on that lap 23, coming up to 24 of 200. Plenty of hard racing action to be seen here, as already side by side continues to be shown for the battling for 8th, as well as what we're seeing on screen is the battle for 13th between that of the 10 of Joshua Robinson and the 21 of Ross Tatum. But we bounce forward up. The same three drivers we were talking about earlier battling around one another, well, they're still battling. Drivers going backwards in front. That's Dylan Grimm in the 17.
Yeah, Dylan Grimm definitely in the 17, still holding a good spot there as he's kind of falling back, but the tires are probably being saved here by that 17, hopefully, on his side of the case. But the driver who really has just been gaining the most spots overall, back from 19th starting position now at the 7th, and he's just been utilizing the high side going around this train of cars. That is the 15 of Christopher Wade, our winner at Daytona. What a great job by him to get this done. Now, I do get concerned with how much speed he's carrying in that outer groove. It can really have a detrimental effect to the right front tire. We'll see if he can make it last here as he's continuing to gain the positions.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher Wade, part of 5 drivers, around that of 8 to 10 drivers that have been here since the beginning of the Stars and Stripes series. He's ran every single race that has been here at Dover, and he's hoping for a strong run. Of those 5 races, he's averaged about a 10th place finish. And right now, moving up to 5th place, looking good for that of Christopher Wade. And talking about this series of the Stars and Stripes, this is season number 6. Dover, one of 6 racetracks that have been here for every single year. I mean, every single season so far. The other 5 racetracks would be that of Daytona, Rockingham, Talladega, Richmond, and that of Homestead on top of here at Dover, as the 15 continues to rip that second lane, and now to the quarter panel of the 24.
It's amazing to see this. I mean, he's showing right now that that top group can make a ton of speed. It's just going to be a question for how long. I have seen him a few times off the exits of these corners get very, very close to that wall and kind of lose the front end. So as this run goes on, will he be able to make that work? And right now, he's done just an excellent job of getting track position overall. I mean, if we go, 30, 40 laps here, and he doesn't lose too many of these spots by, maybe having a considerable amount of tire wear, and we get a caution at some point, he'll really actually reflect back on this and say it was well worth it to go out there and really find these fast lap times, or maybe he keeps that speed up and he'll be up to the front at that point.
And speaking of up front, where this 15 is trying to catch up to, you find the #1 machine of Nate Lynch. I mean, this is incredible to see from the one. You look to the past, kind of like Derek Offerman, ran very well in this car back in the past, finished second here in the ARCA machine, and hoping to be up front, but seeing connection issues, kind of like what we were seeing from Thomas Ogle. Nate Lynch is hoping that that gets cleared up, because this is probably the best run we've seen from this one in probably about two to three seasons. I mean, this is a heroic start to tonight's race.
Undoubtedly there, Sam. It's definitely a heroic start for that one machine. He's really found his groove here at the Monster Mile and has been kind of clicking off some very consistent, precise laps here during this first portion of this run. Is having some connection issues, like you said. Hopefully those clear up for him, but we'll see if he has anything for these top two, as it's Scott Rickard. He's starting to pull back in here on Thomas Ogle, as this gap's about 3 to 4 tenths here between these two for the majority of this run after the restart, as they're pretty much building a giant gap to a lot of the drivers who are dropping farther back. I mean, it's almost towards the 3 seconds back to the 8th position already.
And dropping back to that of 8th, and looking at the drivers, basically from that of 5th on back, everyone's running pretty similar lap times, only about a tenth off of what the leaders were. And the leaders were pulling away, almost trying to build up this gap. I'm curious, Kyle Bowling and everyone deeper in that field, are they all thinking the same thing of like, all right, we're just going to allow the 24 or the 17 who was leading at that time be our pace driver. Let us just hold on for now, and we'll attack later in this run, because we're not even halfway to when we're expecting drivers coming to pit road around lap 80 to that of 90. Drivers are just settling in. Again, no stage breaks here in the Stars and Stripes series, as taking a look at that of the 48 machine, Brian Scalise, as well as Jason Gratton. This is the battling for 13th and 14th, all in line, all staying patient. And also, Zach, when I started talking, the sun came out. We're starting to see the sunshine.
It definitely got brighter out there as that sun came out from behind the clouds, and that's going to heat up the racetrack and make this track a little bit more reactive to the rubber that's being laid down out there to bring those oils out of it, and to maybe make this track a little bit slicker, not only in the rear end, but also in that front end wanting to push out. So the tire wear can get a little bit worse also, but they're going to have to find those grooves to make it work. And what's amazing, even, you're talking about 5th place of Kyle Bowling, all the way back to 18th there, Derek Offerman. It's just a straight line right now. So everybody, like you said, kind of paced behind that 24 and that 17 for the majority of the start of this race. We'll see at what point do we see the lap times start to come in their favor maybe, or it could fall the other way. I mean, sometimes even saving tires and backing up your corners, going a little bit slower, can have the opposite effect. It really depends on what the balance of this race car is, but normally it trends towards that tighter side, which lends itself to slowing those speeds down and not carrying as much center speed to hurt those tires.
Well, if you're joining us right now, we've only had one caution so far that happened in the first 10 laps of this race, where that had that of Aaron Hale as well as that of Diego Valle making contact with one another, and also having that of Zach Kreitz being involved with that incident. So far, we've had one driver officially call it a night, that of Dylan Glass, just not having the right connection issues to race here this evening. It seems like he's kind of given up on trying to get himself out there on track. Aaron Hale, who was forced with prior damage, got the damage repaired, only 3 laps down, and the only driver a lap down. Thomas Ogle took the lead pretty quickly in this race, and he has not looked back. The 31 has led almost every lap except for a handful that Scott Rickard got in those first couple. Rest of the field, they've been patient, waiting, but here comes a little bit of movement from Ross Tatum on the outside.
Ross Tatum trying to make something happen, but not going to be able to. There's Will Bustler going to take that spot in the 6th machine. You also got Kevin O'Keefe, who's going to look on the inside of the 21 off of the turn of 2 there. If he can make something happen, just not able to get it done. Is looks like a few drivers starting to pick up the wick here in the middle of this pack and try to find a little bit more pace to try to go up there and contend with that top three who's kind of driven away from the rest of the field here. So, it's always tough when you're a driver when you're in this line like this because you don't want to go too hard to try to gain too many spots because you feel like you'll be struggling later in the run. But sometimes you just need to go up there and get the track position, get that clean air to have that right away just to drive your line and hit your marks perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, hit those marks, move forward as fast as possible. I mean, Christopher Wade was the one that kind of proved the outside lane might be the way to go, especially in the early portions. He's the biggest mover of the race, up 15 spots, and when everyone else was being patient, the 15 just took off, and Kyle Bowling starting to close in on that gap after being a little bit too aggressive. Andrew Hess also moving forward. It's Dylan Grimm who is falling back quickly. Our pole sitter, he did well at getting the pole, but at this moment, Zach, this has been the trend for the 17. He does well at qualifying, does well in the short runs, and then he starts to fall back.
It is very intriguing to see that because it kind of seemed like he was saving his stuff, but it just doesn't seem like it's ever coming back around. And right now, we're on lap 43, and that's about halfway through a fuel run right now. That is showing signs of, I don't think the speed's going to, show up for that 17. So it could be a tough break for him. But as he looks forward, he may be able to follow these two up ahead of him through a Will Bustler and Andrew Hess. They're getting by Christopher Wade in that 15, who I think is paying the price for running that high line and going so fast around this whole line from back around that 19th position.
Yeah, I was just looking at the lap times. Andrew Hess was flying about 2 laps ago, had the fastest car on track. But on the flip side, you're seeing him go backwards. 15, Christopher Wade, he was one of the slowest cars. Those tires gone. And also, I'm curious if he's just, at this point, I mean, there's just no grip, it looks like. He way too loose when he was by himself, and now paying the price, finally gets in line, but it looks like he's just dipping out. It is not comfortable driving this 15, who is about over a half a second slower than everyone else on track.
This concrete surface can be so puzzling sometimes. You just question, what do I need to do to be able to figure it out? And right now, I think the 15 is definitely saying that to himself, saying, man, I gained all those spots. It felt great. But now this has got to feel terrible to be dropping back and just not have the grip that you need. And, I wouldn't even put it outside the realm of the ballpark here. This is a track that is very a common case. If we go the full distance here for a run, you could see some tire failures from drivers. So don't take that out of the realm of possibilities. This track is known for its very aggressive tire wear. And this 15 is just trying to hold on for everything he's got because he's just got a hungry pack of drivers just going right by him every single lap.
Yeah, and these drivers only given 4 sets of tires to work with for this whole entire race. They were given 1 set to start this race off that everyone is still working with. Then they were given 3 extra sets in pit road if they wanted to come in, put on a set there. So drivers have to be mindful of when they want to use those tires. And that's why in my notes I wrote down, this race was expected to be a 2 to a 3 stop, and 2 stops just basically on fuel if this race had stayed green. And then 3 stops if the tire wear was just too abrasive and drivers were going to be forced to come into pit road. And based on what we just saw there from Christopher Wade, he's going to have to hope that these tires aren't too aggressively beat up and that he can at least make it to lap 8.
You're exactly right, Sam. Yeah, this can easily turn quickly into a 3-stop race if those tires get too aggressive with the wear. I'm thinking, was running a few numbers through my head, just thinking, you go to that lap 80 point, you're going to be, looking to take it to 160 again. At least you're 40 laps at the end of the race. I don't think that's the most optimal strategy here if you're looking for that 2-stop strategy. I'm thinking that pit window is going to open up for a few of these guys around lap 70 here to take it to around lap 40. That gives you a 60-lap run to end the race. Kind of splitting this race up into 70 and 60-lap runs. I think that would be possibly the best way to go. We'll see how they decide it. Like you said, the tire wear can kick into a different notch, and sometimes you're going to say, well, I just got to hit pit road even much earlier than I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could also attack it. I mean, you also could think of maybe 65, and then take it to the end and have a 70-lap run where you're just trying to do an undercut and maximizing that early speed against other drivers. There's plenty of different strategies, and I think that's what this fuel stint for these drivers kind of allows a lot more strategy to be put out that we're expecting to see here. Again, 30 laps from when they're going to be expected to make their first pit stops as you're pushing your fuel all the way out, but the pit stop window could be opening up in the next 15 laps. As take a look here, 4th place runner Kyle Bowling in the 24. He's got Andrew Hess behind him as well as Will Bustler These drivers trying to figure out how to catch up to our front three, who are now starting to space out between one another. I mean, thought Scott Rickard was going to pounce on the 31's early aggression on those tires. Zach, we were curious on maybe the tires were going to be overcooked for the 31. I think right now that caution might have came out perfectly for him to save those tires.
That it has, Sam. This has been super impressive for Thomas Oval. I mean, right now, still running very fast lap times. Now, this group we have on the screen, the 24, the 5, and the 6, they're actually the fastest cars on the racetrack here, with actually this most latest time by being Scott Rickard. So it's kind of bouncing back and forth between our top 5 of who's the fastest car out on the racetrack. But Thomas Oval not showing any signs of slowing up here for himself in that 31 machine. So we'll see how it works out. And, you know, oh, they got the lap car there, the 19 in between them also there. It's going to be a tricky trying to get around him, as now Scott Rickard will get past him. And, you know, you brought up the undercut factor. That is a huge factor here. The tires are so valuable, and the lap times fall off so much. I mean, we look back to the fastest time Thomas Oval fell. Ram was at 23.85, now to his 25.37. So you're seeing upwards of a second and a half fall off already happening here, just 55 laps into this run. With that being a factor, if you do that undercut, you can gain tons of time, but you also play the risk of going laps down if that yellow flag does fly. And this pit road, very tricky to get on. That yellow flag is very common right around pit sequence.
Extremely tricky to get on. I know and a lot of other broadcasts have covered at Dover, seen a lot of drivers go into the water barrels at the very entry of pit road. And, you know, Zach, what makes pit road so tricky for these drivers, would you say? Is it the way that you have to get on? Is it just where the pit road is? What is the trickiest spot for them?
Multiple factors with this, folks. It is one of those things where the transition from that banking down to that flat apron is very treacherous. Not only that, but the angle of where you have to do it in the corner is also very tricky, but also getting down to that 35-mile-an-hour pit road speed. I mean, it is one of the tracks that has the most jarring sense of speed when you come to pit road, just due to, you know, you're running upwards of 170 mile an hour here around this fast mile track. And when you drop down to, 35 mile an hour, it feels like you're crawling. So a lot of people will misjudge it when they come to pit road, getting there a little hot, and then you are really in trouble if you get into that pit road too fast, because you can easily lock up the brakes, slide right into his barrels, as it's still a pit road right at the exit of the corner. So it still bends right there. That really adds in a different factor. Where most pit roads have a straight entry, this pit road is still located in the corner.
And be extremely tricky for themselves as we're heading to lap 60 of 201 caution so far here tonight. And if you look at the trends for every race so far, it has been either one caution for the whole entire race or two. And we'll see if there's going to be a second one for these drivers. Lap 60 is upon us. And as the drivers continue to think of when they want to come into pit road, a factor we touched on earlier, the weather. The sun popped up about 30 laps ago. And Zach, that's something I want to look at here if we can, because this track temp was started out around that of 98 degrees. It has climbed greatly in the last just 30 laps, up to 111 degrees for the track temp, and it continues to climb.
That is always a great factor to see, because that changes the racetrack so much. When you have that cooler temp of around 98 degrees, what it was before, you have so much more grip out there on the racetrack. The speeds are higher, not only, but also you just feel a little bit more confident with how the car is going to drive at those lower temperatures. When that heat starts to come out, that sun starts to shine, things start to happen on that racetrack, and you got to find quickly how to make those small, simple changes as a driver to stay on top of that, because that's personally one of the coolest factors of iRacing that they added many years ago was this dynamic weather system. We used to have it back in the day where it was a static weather. You just had the same conditions throughout the race. Now these drivers deal with the same things that, real life NASCAR drivers deal with on a weekly basis, of the weather changing, a cloud pattern coming in that changes every little factor out there. And it can really separate the drivers that stay on top of it from the drivers that just can't make those simple changes.
And speaking of changes, here comes a change for that at fourth place. Andrew Hess going to be getting bite out of the one of Nate Lynch. Lynch's tires seem to be gone. And that group of three where we're talking about being some of the fastest drivers on track, well, they are moving forward. Up now, going to be up to third, fourth, and that of fifth. of seeing that of Kyle Bowling, Andrew Hess, and Will Bustler all on the charge. But the one big thing they've got to be worrying about, they are still around that of 4 seconds off of our leader, Thomas Ogle, who just continues to just be patient, clicking away laps, and lap traffic is being quite generous to our leader of trying to get out of the way as soon and as quick as possible.
Lap traffic's been very good. Richard Hurst there earlier led him by. Now Aaron Hill in the 40 just led him by nice and clean. So it's always great when that lap traffic allows you to get by them cleanly, because you can easily lose tons of time just due to the factor of lap traffic. And I think a lot of these drivers, happy that they got that lane in front of them, that clean air that allows that car to drive. And now I'm interested to see what kind of lap times can Kyle Bowling, Andrew Hess, and Will Bustler have, because they just got past Nate Lynch, who's starting to struggle a little bit with a 25.43, about 0.3 off of the drivers all around them. So we'll see, what does this factor into it here? Can they start to close in?
Sorry to cut you off there, Zach. Drivers are hitting pit road, and some are already making mistakes. You see the 12 low and slow, miss pit road, and caution's going to fly. As drivers having issues, it's the 41 of Jonathan Woods, as that of the 48 just hit pit road.
It's just like that, man. It happens so fast here. During these pit sequences, it always seems like this is the most, interesting time of the race. And I tell you, it makes you very nervous for those undercut moments. You want to go out there and get the new tires so you can run those faster speeds, but because of situations like this, a lot of times it's just better to wait it out and just try to, do the overcut, as they would say. So it's one of those situations that you got to deal with as a driver, and it's all about timing when you come to pit road, and a few of them getting it wrong, especially Scalise there in the 48. He's going to go a lap down due to this.
Gonna go a lap down and hoping in some fashion to maybe get that lap back in a quick way, as drivers now hitting pit road for our leaders, as we're getting our replay set up to show you exactly what happened here. And here is the replay. Watch out for the 21 and the 41. They're going to be trying to do a simple transition. The 41 are going to be trying to make this pass for position, but just clipped by the 21, just barely, just thought they were clear, they weren't, and going to be seeing that 41 machine sliding up in that outside wall.
The tough situation with that incident right there is not only the 41 getting a ton of damage there for Jonathan Woods, but those two, they're teammates. So that situation sure is not the greatest moment between two teammates. But again, it was the 41 making the big move to the inside, sliding up, and I think Ross just did not expect him to really lose that much momentum through the center of the corner, or on the entry of the corner, sorry. So tough break for two teammates, but we'll see how Jonathan Woods can get that car fixed up as they head off of pit road. Thomas Ogle doing a great job once again to keep that lead here with the pit stop.
We're on lap 69 of 200. A nice stop by that of Thomas Ogle, with Scott Rickard going to be in second. And as well, Ryan Scalise. Yes, he went a lap down, but Zach looks to be, at the time that he got back out on track and got his pit stop done, he's going to be able to take a wave around for this 48.
Very good news for Brian, because that could have easily spiraled out of control there for him if he's going to get this wave here by being out in front of the leaders. So that's a very good sign for him, because you go a lap down here at Dover. We've already seen a ton of green flag laps here with only our second caution of the night through 70 laps. If you don't get that caution, it's almost impossible to get that lap back. So great news there for Brian Scalise, as he'll be looking to get that wave along with possibly Aaron Hill there in the 40.
As drivers are getting themselves prepared, as they should be getting the one to go next time by, gives us a moment to shout out some of our sponsors here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, that being iRacing iFlag. iRacing iFlag have plenty of great products. They've got the patented iFlag virtual flag system that gives you clear indications on what's on track. What the flag state is on track. And they've got multiple of the other iFlag virtual flag systems. It can also count as a spotter. But other great products that they have at iRacingIFlag.com is their digital pit board. We were talking about fuel strategies, the weather. Well, all that information can be given to you, the driver, with their digital pit board. Go head over to iRacingIFlag.com today and use our promo code FreakyFast2022 when purchasing.
And add another great product from Sim Racing to your catalog with your iRacing iFlag. You might as well go check out the admin box, folks. There, head over to adminbox.com because they have one of the best button boxes out there in sim racing. Not only does it give you like I always say the driver functionality that most sim racing button boxes do, but this already has the pre-programmed commands to be able to race control a race, and that adds in so many factors where you can throw yellows, clear black flags, shorten the caution length, extend the caution to be able to control that race from your driver's seat. So head on over to adminbox.com, use the discount code you see on the screen there, FFB/box with 2 X's, to get you one of the best sim racing button boxes out there today.
And Zach, you're talking about control. Well, I know you're going to be running control this Saturday as the drivers are amped up. We got plenty of different drivers that we cover from all the different leagues and drivers that we haven't covered before, all getting prepared for Saturday's charity event. It's the Daytona 500 here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting for that of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. So excited. This is the last day for us to promote it on our broadcast before Saturday comes around. We are so amped. We'll touch more on that later on tonight as well as we get ourselves prepared to get back to green flag racing. Pace car is off. Thomas Ogle, Scott Rickard, your top 2. How will this restart go? Who has learned? Who's gonna be fast? Who's gonna cool off? Here we go into the restart zone. The Monster Mile 200 is back underway.
Oh, and the wrecking, Tom, I think it's Jonathan Woods in the 41 in the background. He spins around, but all because he's all by himself. We're not going to get a yellow flag. They're going to stay green. And right now, Thomas Ogle with Scott Rickard are going to come off here 1-2, but here comes Kyle Bowling, Andrew Hess, Dylan Grimm, and also the 6th machine of Will Bustler.
And I think some of these drivers might have recognized you have to take off, make some early passes, then save your tires as Andrew Hess going to be staying high. Here comes that of Kyle Bowling. Grimm trying to be aggressive as Thomas Ogle trying to hold this fresh air and keep himself in a great position. Almost contact behind, but for that of Will Bustler and Ross Tatum as they continue to stay side by side for 3rd place.
Side by side, Sam, there in the 24. These two were in the 5 were both fighting for being one of the faster cars on the long run. I think they know this is a very important position to be in because you'll have the cleanest air for when you're trying to run back down that 32 and that 31 out front because they've been just overall fast all night. But here comes Dylan Grimm, the pole setter. Also, he's trying to get himself back up in position after falling back a few spots here early in that run, or late in that run.
And you also get a flash of the yellow behind of Diego Valle, who's almost back into the top 10 as he's trying to make his climb forward, running around that of Tim McNally, Jason Grattan getting by those drivers and now aiming to try to move up and go after Derek Offerman, which Offerman, Nate Lynch, 2 drivers that finished 1 and 2 back and see. Oh no, that's going to be the 8 machine the 9 machine. Zach Kreitz spun around, drivers slipping and sliding, trying to avoid contact. And they're still piling in now.
Tough break there. That was some interesting contact between the 22 and the 9. I'm unsure if the 22 just lost it on the back straightaway, but with all that happening, it really makes things tough to try to get through it. And that's why you saw some other drivers just having a tough time trying to make it through that incident. It was Christopher Wade, Trey Jackson, the 42 of Ed Perry. You had the 19 of Richard Hurst there. You also had the 22 who was involved with the beginning of that, but also the 23 of Kevin O'Keefe trying to get by it, as I think he just barely missed that.
2 drivers require damage. Without Brian Lynch and Richard Hurst going to be having to force to go to pit road as we take a look here. Again, 2 drivers to watch out for. It's going to be the 9 and the 22. Watch out for the 22. Going to be going to the outside, trying to bounce and make the pass, but it's the exit of turn 2 here, Zach, where it looks like maybe a little bit too close to the wall, trying to yank the steering wheel, trying to do everything to stay off of that outside wall. And for Brian Lynch, it just backfires here.
That it really does. This is a tough break for Kreitz, who just minding his own business. The 22 just yanks it left there. I think trying, like you said, stay off that wall, and then this is going to start pandemonium at this point. You're going to see Christopher Wade. He's going to dive to the inside, but the 22 is trying to get off the 9. He's going to clip that right rear, spin him around. Trey Jackson's going to come into this. The 43 of Brian Chu's up top, just trying to make it through, and the 42 of Ed Perry comes in and tags him. But the driver that is going to have an interesting sight, as you'll see coming to the picture here very soon, is the 23 of Kevin O'Keefe. He did an excellent job. He navigated this wreck almost perfectly, and you can see the 19 even coming in there late, sliding into it. But Kevin O'Keefe, excellent job by the 23 there to navigate through that wreck and somehow make it through, as those cars spinning left, right, and everywhere going down into 3 and 4.
I also got to say, for that of Brian Chu, that wreck could have been a lot worse for the 43 machine. Yeah, he might have been frustrated the fact that he got hit from behind by Ed Perry, but I think that hit might have saved that 43 from absolute pile driving into Christopher Wade and got forced him loose. But as we look here, riding on board with Kevin O'Keefe, just to get a sight line of this wreck for himself. Gonna see smoke going high, then trying to go low, and oh my. So many different drivers, not a lot of visibility to see, but somehow gets through.
Excellent job. That's just 100% on the test there for missing a wreck. That is great awareness, just great heads-up driving from the 23 of Kevin O'Keefe. Luckily, just getting through that without catching any type of damage. And the thing that was crazy for him is he started at the rear of the field there behind the 41. That's where we saw Jonathan Woods get spun with a checkup with the 23 hitting him in the back bumper. So luckily for Kevin O'Keefe, he makes it through 2 types of incidents here without really too much damage, as that 40 or 23 is actually pretty clean still here for how much trouble he almost got in.
So much trouble could have been caught up in, as drivers getting ready to get back underway. This is our 3rd caution of the night here, and this is the most cautions actually Dover has ever had in the Stars and Stripes Throwback Series, as in previous seasons it's either been 1 caution or 2. But Zach, trends are nice to have, but they're always meant to be broken at some point.
That they are, Sam. It is never a foreseen factor that stuff is going to happen the same way as happened before. A race can play out so differently each and every time, and that's why, you can never be certain about what strategy you play, how you do certain moves, because as a driver, you just don't know what's going to happen. You got to go out there and make the most out of what you're given, and most of these drivers have done that. Other ones have had some hiccups, but we'll see on this restart if it all gets a little bit better here. But that's an impressive stat to have, in my opinion, also, that, you only have had 2 or 1 cautions all your time here at Dover, because such a tough racetrack. This place can cause a lot of yellows. It does have a tendency to go green for a while, just because you can spread it out around this high banked fast mile racetrack, but it also has the tendency to start to be a very tough and almost a wreckfest style race, where people start losing their cars off the exits of the corners, getting into the wall, bouncing into each other. So it's not an uncommon thing to see a ton of yellow flags when you come to Dover.
It absolutely is not, as drivers are stacked up, pace car lights are off, and there goes the pace car pulling into pit road. It's time to get back to green flag racing here at Dover for the Monster Mile 200 for the Stars and Stripes Throwback Season. Season 6, race number 6 is back underway.
Another great start from that bottom lane, and really the one who took advantage of it the most, Andrew Hess and Dylan Grimm, is the 32 of Scott Rickard. He's going to drop back to 4th now, and even Ross Tatum, he's up into the top 5 past Kyle Bowling. So that outside line really getting taken advantage of is now Will Bustler trying to make something happen on the 24 in the background.
I mean, these drivers, I think they really recognized after that long stint that we had before our 2nd caution came out, learning, all right, we can save tires, we can be slightly aggressive, try to make some passes in the early going. That's why Andrew Hess, Dylan Grimm, they are taking every single position they can in the early spots, and they want that fresh air. They know how important it is to get out of the wake of the driver ahead of them. As Thomas Ogle continues to lead, and side by side, it's that of the 24 and the 20. That is Eric Offerman is on the move. He's won this race back in season 1, and he's hoping to get himself back in that lead position.
One of my favorite sights I always see as a driver up here analyzing these races myself is when drivers go out there and do something different than they did the first one. Like you said, maybe they felt like they didn't fall off a lot there. They did, and what they saved really wasn't worth it. So they're feeling like, now we need to go up there and actually keep somewhat close to these drivers up ahead of us. So it's always cool to see the ebbs and flows when you get a caution to allow a driver to make those simple changes that really help him. And here comes a simple change just around the outside. The 20 machine off him, and they're wrecking.
Contact going to be with Bad Will Bustler, and more drivers piling in. They're trying to hold on the backstretch. Somehow keep it straight. Everyone gets into the wall, gets into one another, but they didn't go sideways somehow.
That is a feat that is very rare when you get hit here at Dover. As everybody corrected it, it was Valle in the 77 who got in the back of the 10 machine as he checked up for the smoke up ahead. And again, like I brought up at Daytona earlier this season, these noses of these cars are like wedges. They just go right up underneath the bumper, and when you hit somebody, it lifts the rear tires and the whole rear end right off the ground. And it's surprising to see us still green flag with those big of hits already.
There were about 2 or 3 different times that there should have been a yellow thrown as Diego somehow kicking contact. Going to be seeing drivers going low. We continue to stay green once again with the 77 caught up with another issue. That was with Aaron Hale in the 40 machine, who's going to be that 2 laps down. Trey Jackson had to really back off for himself there. And again, we stay green. And Zach, all these different clusters of incidences, it's just breaking up the field. This is looking like a perfect combination for a long run to build up.
That it is looking like that, Sam. This is interesting to see, and I wasn't too surprised to see that 40 and the 77 make contact. I mean, I don't want to say that, that was something brewing in the air, but, it definitely had maybe some similarities to the incident between that really took the 48 or the 40 out of this race early in the event with him getting hit by the 77 Valle. So maybe the 40 repaying a little bit of feelings there to that 77. But like you said, it's really separated this field and has allowed everybody to kind of get in their own little group. And we possibly could have that long green run here looming.
And here's the battle for 12th place. Zach Wright somehow has been an innocent victim of 2 wrecks, heavily damaged on both sides, and the 9 continues to just chug his way forward. The 15, Christopher Wade, he was one of the most biggest movers in the first half of this race. He has moved forward, he's gone back. Now going to be trying to make the track close in on this front pack, who once again, we're seeing a little bit of just hesitation on the pacing wise in this train, being led by Ross Tatum in 5th place.
It is definitely a little bit of hesitation being shown by a few of these drivers that are, willing still to back up these corners, save those tires, and try to make something the most out of this. Is, you got the 1 and 8 Lynch there. He was up in the top 3 for majority of that run. Really struggled at the end and has fell back, and I think he's kind of figured out that, hey, I got to save a little bit. Along with Christopher Wade in the 15, I mean, he has not made his hard charge around the outside. I think he learned from those mistakes, and that's kind of like what I brought up earlier is it's always fun to see how drivers change from run to run, taking what they learned from their tire data and just overall their pace during a longer run. So it's fun to see, but right now there's some other drivers going for it. Looks like Derek Offerman, he thought about a moment there trying to get to the outside of Will Bustler, but we saw the contact between them two already. They both got left front and right front damage from that incident.
As here comes the 12 machine of Tim McNally trying to get to the inside of that of Derek Offerman. McNally moving forward. We've talked about different schemes and drivers in real life that have won here at Dover. Well, this 12 actually has gotten to victory lane. Ryan Newman was running this scheme. Won back in 2003 and 2004 as Tim McNally up 1 position from where he started. But the 12 in this ARCA car, he has not been having the best finishes that he's been wanting, especially in other vehicles that we've seen him perform in. But here tonight, kind of like what we've been saying for a lot of drivers that have been struggling in past races, Dover in this concrete just allowing a lot more of drivers that were fast in the past to perform well here tonight.
I've always thought as Dover as a track that you can carry over from car to car different techniques. It's not a very big variation, in my opinion, of how it drives from car to car. Definitely there's small ones there that can lend yourself to be, get the right positioning on people and pick the right lane. But I will say it's just a track that you can take many things you've learned in the past from previous cars and apply it here. So I'm definitely seeing a lot of that syndrome here tonight as we see our top 4 now, Sam. They're all broken away, and it's Andrew Hest and Dylan Grimm. They've elected to do a little bit different than they did the first run of falling back. I think they feel like right now staying farther up towards the front is the way to go.
Dylan Grimm, he got the pole. He dropped back pretty quickly and then decided to trying to make a push forward with Andrew Hess once they were putting down some fast times, but it's just they gave up 4 seconds on our leaders and never were able to gain that time back. Now deciding, let's stay with the leaders in our top 4. I feel like if we get another caution here, Zach, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns into more, maybe 6 to 7 drivers all trying to stay up front. But it's Scott Ricker, the driver that has won 3 times this season, trying to go for win number 4 of the season for himself. Lingering back in 4th place, and this is looking shades of what we've seen in previous wins, where Rickard might not be trying to dominate, but he's sitting in wait.
If he's in position in the top 5, you got to count him in as a possible factor as always, because like you've said, Sam, he just has that knack for going out there and getting these wins late in these races. It just seems like even if he's not in position to dominate, he's in position to win it still. So that's a great trait to have, especially when it comes down to playoff time for these drivers, and you're going to have to definitely carry that over to those playoffs for himself. So we'll see how that lingers into the rest of the season, as we are nearing that halfway point in the regular season. It's going to be a very critical time for everybody to start getting those points to allow themselves to get in better positions.
And as we're closing in on that halfway, if you're just joining us now, thank you and welcome for joining us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name's Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Productions in the background. You are currently watching Thursday night coverage of the Stars and Stripes throwback season. This is season number 6 of the Stars and Stripes. It ran so many different cars throughout their seasons. And here is race number 6 at Dover. We've had a couple of cautions coming out so far. 2 drivers have called it a night. Dylan Glass, who's not able to even take the grid, he is going to be done for the night. Ed Perry, one of the most recent drivers to call it a night for the 42. We've got a total of 24 cars out on track, but only 20 on the lead lap, as we are now at halfway here tonight. And for us up at the booth, we are going to step aside. We have been giving you some great coverage, 100 laps, and we know this race can stay green. Can they carry that all the way through? And will we see just one more stop left? Time will tell, as we will go side by side so you don't miss a thing, as we will be giving you more coverage of the Monster Mile 200 on the other side. big thanks to Game to Give from the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, as you've seen them as our splash screen transition, and as well for here the Stars and Stripes Throwback season. Big thanks to all the sponsors that allow them to have us as a broadcast team and also help out the drivers. First and foremost, got to give a big shout out to ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. And as well, a huge thanks to that at Next Level Racing. As if you're trying to get yourself set up for racing rigs, both of those great products to grab on top of ours that we've shouted out as well of iRacing, iFlag, and also the admin box. Currently, right now, we're past halfway. We are 117 laps in of 200. The drivers expecting to turn this race into one more pit stop. Last time they had to make a green flag pit stop, though, a caution flag came out. Will that be the changing factor of when do drivers want to come in? Do they come out? Well, a lot of different topics to be brought up, and we myself, Sam Dyer, as well with that as Zach Hall, we'll give you our thoughts on how these drivers might try to attack this, which, I mean, Zach, they've been out there on track for 50 laps on this run, and we're coming up to that at lap 120. Could this be the last stop, or do you think what we might see two at this point?
I'm thinking we're going to see one, just due to the factor of here we're going to be coming around the complete, 119, then the next lap around. Oh, there's caution.
Never mind. We'll send it to the back stretch. It's going to be the 10 machine having issues of Joshua Robinson, who is going to be slowing down, as well as it looked like issues between himself, Christopher Wade, and some other drivers stacking on top of one another onto the back stretch, bringing out our fourth caution of the day as we get our replay set up for you, as this race has actually been pretty great to watch when you get to green flag racing. But Zach, now this is the question of, do they need to make any more pit stops? Because I'm expecting everyone to come into pit road now.
Pit road's going to be a busy place for sure, Sam. That is no doubt here. And they should be right within the realm of making it on fuel. It's going to be close. Also, a tire also it'll be close. So we'll see how it works out. As I can confirm, they are all hitting pit road right now as we're getting this instant replay queued up. But this caution right here, I think, as we're going to see, it's going to be a little bit of a tough break there for the 10. Just kind of minding his own business and just getting involved in an incident that, kind of just a little bit of I think, a mental lapse there from the 48, as it was Scalise and Robinson involved in this one. But again, right around the pit sequence, so right when the window was starting to open up for pit stops, we get that caution that allows these drivers not to have that treacherous entry to green flag stops here at this pit road at Dover.
Still only been a handful of drivers that have had to do green flag pit stops here tonight. Majority of the field still haven't been able to test it out, and most likely they won't have to, as drivers trying out a couple of different strategies here tonight, as we are still getting our replay set up for y'all out there. As we take a look at it now, it's going to be watching out for the 10, the 43, and as well you see that of the 48. That's going to be Scalise coming down into the 10. But Zach, it just, at this point, you're holding on, and I don't think anyone could have predicted that type of a slowdown by the 10.
Yeah, I don't think they could have, and I think you also couldn't predict the 48 coming from really like the third groove kind of down into that second groove and almost even to the groove that the 10 was running. So I think it caught the 10 off guard, and when he got hit, it just checked him up, and from there, drivers just tried to make it around, but it was unfortunate. As you can see, the damage on that 10 machine now after that yellow, and he's going to have to get that all worked on here. It's not fun to have damage at Dover, where downforce is very valuable. When you have those fenders not flared out like they're supposed to be, you can lose valuable downforce points that'll take away that grip from that car.
Yeah, it's not nice to lose at all, as we are under our fourth caution of the day. And if you're just joining us, we've had that of Ed Perry and Dylan Glass both call it a night for themselves. Ed Perry, after caught up in some incidences, called it a night. Dylan Glass did not even start the grid. He was hoping to start it out, but missed out on getting out on track. And we only have that of 20 drivers on the lead lap at this time. And after that wreck, still that of Brian Chu in pit road getting service done. He's been periodically coming in and out, But up front, Thomas Ogle leading the way, and Zach, this 31's been dominating this race so far, leading the majority of the laps so far this race. This is giving shades of last season, Season 5. The drivers were running that of the Gen 7 Cup car, and Cameron Sarton for that race led 179 laps of the 200. Thomas Ogle at this time, I believe he's already surpassed anyone else at having led the most laps. He might get close if he wins this race and continues to lead to go for that record.
That he very well could, Sam. I mean, this place is a very interesting racetrack where you can sometimes see it very mixed up. A lot of people lead changing, positions changing back and forth due to that tire wear and the fall off in the tires. But then there's other cases where I've seen this place just get completely dominated by somebody and just have pretty much a stranglehold on the rest of the field with, you know, not only their short run speed, their mid run speed, but also their long run speed. So it is a track that has those tendencies to show up because it's just such a unique track, I think, that even somebody, when they got that feel here and they got the right, you know, just I'd say mojo underneath them here for the runs, then you can really get things done here at Dover. So Thomas Ogle must be feeling like that. But again, that last run, he had a lot of pressure underneath him with that 5 machine. We'll see, can Andrew Hess have that challenge? If we do go green to the end, this will be the longest run of the night.
We've seen the inside lane be where you want to be at for these restarts, and Thomas Ogle getting in the restart zone for the Monster Mile 200. We're back to green flag racing. The 31, not as great of a launch as we've seen in past restarts. Andrew Hess keeping up side by side. He's going to be that of Grim. Hess, as that Thomas trying to hold on for this lead, but watch out for the 5. He's close, and here comes the run.
That he is. Here comes Andrew Hess with that run off the top side, and that was an excellent job on that restart. We've seen the outside really struggle on the restarts lately, but not this time. As you can even see Ross Tatum in the 21. He's using the outside groove, and he's going to get the track position. He's not giving up here as he's showing a lot of speed coming up to the back bumper of the 17.
He's putting the pressure on Dylan Grimm to start moving forward. Andrew Hess not going to have the grip to continue to stay on the outside and hold off that second position. Ross Tatum going to move up to third. This 21 machine, who we kept on stating last season on how much he was willing to save his tires. Sometimes it was backfire for that machine. Zach, he hit the go button as drivers further on back all scatter on the front stretch. We continue to stay green.
Go button was engaged indeed, as that was a wild moment there for the 21. And not only that, but the front straightaway there, I believe it was the 6 of Will Bustler there. It kind of stacked it all up, and Valle in him.
Valle gonna be spun around. The rest of the field trying to slow up, and it's Christopher Wade Kreitz again. Contact between those two.
Valle has had a troublesome night here, as I think he was not expecting that 6 to close the door there on the entry of 3, and we kind of got to see that one almost live there for a moment. But it was mayhem once again heading down to 3, and when things stack up, when you got drivers all on top of one another here at Dover with such high speeds, the closing rate is so fast that it makes things very hard to miss, not only with the banking causing everybody to slide all across the racetrack. So tough breaks. But again, tough night for last week's winner.
As we are getting ourselves prepared for this restart. I mean, up front, Ross Tatum, what some big moves he was showing, willing to go forward, but some other drivers falling back. There's going to be Will Bustler coming into the entry of turn 3. Zach, this is where all the chaos happens.
That it really does, Sam. You see Valle with the big run to the inside of Timmy McNally in the 12. You're also going to see, look at Kevin O'Keefe in the 23. He's going to look to follow the 77 through. The 6 is clear right now. The 6 is clear. And then all of a sudden, the 77 with the big dive to the inside, it's just going to clip that rear bumper of the 6 of Will Bustler, get him loose from there as he's trying to save that race car. And Will Bustler does an excellent job of that, but it's the mayhem behind him. It sends Valle around the 9 of Kreitz, who it seems like he just can't get out of the messes here tonight, as he's just been right in the middle of everything. And then here comes Christopher Wade as the 9's coming down the racetrack. Just tough breaks for multiple drivers there involved in another incident here tonight that will not only hurt their chances, but really take their chances away a possible win.
Drivers, hard contact going to be coming into pit road. Don't require damage, surprisingly, after all that hard carnage, but drivers are getting themselves some repairs being made here. Thomas Ogle still leading the way up front, and he has been on a magical run up front. And honestly, I'm curious on how the 31 is feeling for himself. So since we're under our 5th caution of the day, let's get our thoughts from that. Thomas, we'll go if we can get him up into the booth. Thomas, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you have been up front dominating this race, man. How are you feeling up front?
A little nervous. Dylan kind of ran me hard. That last run, they were running way harder than I wanted to. Andrew and those two guys, Scott, they're always tough, you know. I feel like Dylan's kind of lurking, just waiting for a mistake. So I just hope I can keep it up here. Usually I make a mistake about now.
Well, Thomas, hopefully that mistake does not show up here tonight because it's been a dominating performance so far. But, you know, like you said, you felt like they were going a little too fast for your liking. How has that tire management been tonight, trying to keep the tires underneath you here at Dover?
I'm having really good wear. I'm not sure why. Like, I'm waiting a little bit to get back on the gas, but I have really good right front wear. I was really fast at the end of the first run. And once we get like 20 laps in, I feel like I can kind of back the pace down a little bit and run a more comfortable pace, but I just got to run the new off of their tires a little bit, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does, Thomas, as we're getting ready to get back to Green Flag Racing. We hope for the best for you. We'll send you back to your team, and good luck here tonight.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks.
As that, it's going to be the 31 machine of Thomas Ogle leading the way. And Zach, I mean, that's some great information being talked about there by the 31 on the way that he's been trying to run these early portions.
It really is, Sam. It is impressive to see, like he said, you know, wear the new off the tires of the guys around him. So he's kind of almost baiting them into running a little bit faster, possibly making them use up their tires where he feels more comfortable as that run goes on. The speeds start to drop and all that. It just falls more, possibly where he feels into his playing field, where he can save a little bit at that point of the run. So great analysis from there. I think also what is aiding him there is once you get to that part of the run, he has the clean air, and clean air here is just so valuable. And I think Thomas Ogle, like you said, he hopes that mistake doesn't show up, but with how he's been performing the night, I highly doubt that mistake is going to show up.
RC drivers cracking into the top 10. That Brian Scalise is up there. The 20 of Derek Offerman, Jason Grad, Nate Lynch has been holding strong back there just inside of our top 10. But up front, watch this inside lane. Can Dylan Grimm hold on this restart? Into the restart zone. We're green. The 21, that of the 31, he is being caught and ran down. Dylan Grimm, a great launch for himself.
Great job by Dylan Grimm, like you said there, Sam. He really got the launch he needed to put himself in position here to fight for this lead position. As now he's got Ross Tatum still there in the 3rd spot, Andrew Hess in 4th, Scott Rickard back to 5th, and you can never count the 32 out as he's just been lights out for the whole season. But what do these drivers have up their sleeve to try to go out here and challenge the 31?
That's the key thing. What do you have, and can you put the pressure on? We still have less than 70 laps to go. Plenty of racing action to be seen here tonight as, again, it's Thomas Ogle who's been leading the majority of tonight, but Dylan Grimm, our pole sitter, dropped back immediately, gave about that of 5 positions, and we over that of 8 positions, and has clawed back to 2nd place. Is his race done as we fall back to 8th place? You got that of Nate Lynch, Will Bustler. Drivers were caught up in earlier issues. They're still trying to make their charge forward.
That they are, Sam. They're trying everything in their power to try to get back up here in position. But here's the gaggle of cars. This is the 25 of Trey Jackson. He's got the 23 of Kevin O'Keefe, Timmy McNally. Aaron Held back on the lead lap for the 40 machine after being taken out early in this race. That's a great sight to see for him as he's going to get past McNally. And he is a previous winner here at Dover in Season 4. So not surprised to see him starting to charge back up through with that being on the lead lap finally.
It looks to be the 48, Brian Scalise. Hard contact in the outside wall of the exit of turn 2. And pit road might be the destination as he has not been looking great the last couple of laps off turn 2. And it looks like it finally bit too much to handle as Scalise goes to pit road. That's going to be at least 2 laps down for the 48 while he gets into his pit stall. No required damage, but obviously something does not feel right if he had to go straight to pit road.
That was contact between him and the 6 of Will Bustler that put him up into that turn 4 wall, and looks like it's most likely suspension damage for that 48 machine. So tough break for the 48. But here we go. Dylan Grimm in the 17. He's all over the back bumper of the 31. You also got Andrew Hess, Scott Ricker, and Kyle Bolin grouped up about a half second behind these two. But can Dylan Grimm, after sitting on the pole, figure this later run out and get himself in position to fight with that 31?
Dylan Grimm, the only time that he has led laps here at Dover was last season, and it was only one lap in the transition of green flag pit stops. He's hoping to get back up front. He got the pole, but this 17 didn't even lead that first lap. He was passed heading into turn number 1 with a bad start on this race. Dylan Grimm hoping to figure out how to claw and make this pass for the lead, as Thomas Ogle, he talked about under his interview that we just had with them, he felt good on trying to bait drivers, and maybe that's what he was doing to the 17.
Yeah, these two here definitely starting to drive away just a little bit here from the group behind him. But can they fall in? Can Thomas Ogle also fall into his own trap of focusing on the 17 too much and allowing drivers like Scott Ricker, Andrew Hess, and Ross Tatum to save that little bit of tire to allow them to come here and challenge for this race later in this run? That's going to be a huge question in my mind. But also in the background, also as it looks like Andrew Hess going to try to make the pass on Ross Tatum for third now and try to move himself forward. You also got the 8 of Jason Gratton. He's having a great run. He's up to the 7th position.
And also, you can't count him out. Yes, he might have been involved in about 2 or 3 cautions here tonight. 9th place runner, Diego Valle, the fastest car on track in our top 10 right now.
I think also that comes down to the factor of he came to pit road, and I believe he put his last set of tires on that car, folks. We'll see. Can he utilize those new tires to his advantage? I mean, we've seen him at, last week at Homestead do that same strategy of having a little bit fresher tires and was able to go out there and get the victory. Maybe this is what can propel that 77 after such a rough night up to a better finish than what he was probably looking for.
He's going to make these passes be clean, because we're seeing him caught up in some incidences of not able to make clean passes and drivers having mistakes in front of them, and that's something that you don't want to have as a driver, having connection issues in front of you. But we move up ahead. Out of Jason Gratton, we were just touching on this 8. What a run for himself. Right now battling with that of Kyle Bowling. 6th and 7th is this battling as they're closing up. And that is Scalise, who's going to stay on that low line, forcing a little bit of an awkward entry, and also going to make things awkward behind them as Diego Valle makes that pass.
That he does, and here comes Scalise with the 6 machine of Bustler. These two got into it there. That really hurt that 48. Oh, no.
48 making some side damage, wrecking himself, and that's going to be putting him on the apron. An awkward situation to see from drivers. We're hoping that it's not anything bickering, but there's a lot of chatter over the radio. Scalise does not seem happy with that altercation.
That he does not. I don't know if he got the revenge he wanted to get, but he is very slow on the racetrack now, and it almost seems like the 48 is somewhat deploying a waiting strategy here, as I think this 6 might have to worry once again when this 48 comes around, because man, oh man, that was definitely an interesting incident after these two have gotten into it that really put that 48 in the position to be laps down.
I really hope that's not what we're going to be seeing here, but we have to keep our cameras on, because our leaders are going to be passing this 48, who looks to be potentially heading to pit road, and that could be the end of Brian Scalise's night, who is 5 laps down, and it looks like pit road is his destination. Frustration mounting as our leaders go on by, as the 6 of that of Will Bustler will be in 10th place right now, but the drivers behind that of the 6, Kevin O'Keefe, that of Christopher Wade, battling for that of 11th place.
Battles all galore around this racetrack right now. As I tell you what, even as we see Christopher Wade back here in 15th, our top 5, they've gathered back up. It's been somewhat of a reunion for these 5 up front. Scott Rickard all over the back bumper of the 5. You got the 21 of Ross Tatum, the 17 of Grimm, and also Ogle is in the background. Valle, he's up to 6 now, past Kyle Bowling and Jason Gratton. Can the 77 continue this trend of emerging forward? Because he's got about 6 lap fresher tires. Those are not all green laps, but any little difference you can have on the tires compared to your competition can play a huge factor.
At the same time, I am curious, Yvonne, if he's pushing it just a little bit too hard here, Zach. I mean, we saw the same thing happen with that of Christopher Wade earlier this race, of a driver that really looked like he was the fastest car on track, but just overcooked those tires. We still have over 50 laps to go. in this run. If you're pushing these tires too hard, too early, you're going to be backfiring those final 30 laps.
That you very well could be, Sam. He's got to let it come to him. You cannot, go out there and try to get too much because it can easily backfire on yourself, like you said. So we'll see how he makes it work. But right now, that 31's still solid out front, and it seems like these guys were so grouped up before us. Now it seems like Ogle's starting to open up a little bit of gap. Can Scott Rickard go up there and challenge those? We've seen him all night be, in that second position, but through a few of these restarts, after restarting up top, he's still back to 5th. And can he get that track position back like he had earlier?
Top 5, all within a second of one another, and the 32 might be trying to figure out how to poise himself to make this pass as everyone else single filing out, trying to figure out how they want to settle in. 50 more laps to go here at Dover. And for our leaders, it is all Thomas Ogle at this time. Scott Rickard, he's closing in on this 5's bumper. For that of Andrew Hess, this has been the MO of most of this season inside of the top 5. Just trying to go for a good, consistent run. Scott Rickard, he knows how to get to victory lane, but he's got to figure out how to get up front. Break the streak that has been going on here at Dover. This racetrack has been ran every single time, every season here for the Stars and Stripes, and it has been 5 different winners. Could Scott Rickard be the only driver to win here multiple times in different seasons? Could be the moment for this 732.
That it very well could be, Sam. This would be it's going to be a tough time to do that. I mean, he's got the time. There is still plenty of that as we are under 50 to go now, but it's going to be so tough because he's got 3 hard drivers not only to get by, to go up there and even have a chance for it with Thomas Ogle, but then he'll have to get by Thomas Ogle also. So we've seen Ogle be so strong all night. It's going to be a tough sight to see, and I can say Valle, after his charging up to that 6th position, the lap times are starting to fall away. I think he's done what we were talking about, is he's used up a little bit too much tire, and he even got into the wall in the background. Is, I think, the 8 now, Jason Grant, and he's going to be even trying to get back by the 77 for that 6th position.
And as well, something we got to touch on, the weather. Zach, we touched on it back at lap 60, how the track temp was flaming hot. It was just getting hotter and hotter as the sun was out. Well, then the cloud coverage has been here for quite a long time. We are now less than 100 degrees for the track temp. It's down to that of 98 degrees. Wild how this track has been evolving. And that could be another reason why Thomas Ogle has been up front looking so well, because that little gamesmanship that he's been playing of be aggressive, then back off. The weather of the track is certainly helping that of the 31.
It really is. And that partly cloudy skies there you see on the screen, that is the huge factor that plays into the swings of those temperatures when it comes to the track, because the ambient temperature is not really changing. I mean, it's maybe dropped a few degrees from where it was earlier, but 76 degrees ambient out there for air temperature wise. But the big thing that has been changing is that track temp, and that it comes down all to that cloud coverage providing shade to that racetrack. And also you got a pretty stout 8-mile-an-hour southwest wind that's been pretty consistent. So it's just showing that the weather and iRacing here can have a huge factor on your races. And another huge factor, it could be lap traffic, is the 31's getting by the 22 at the moment.
Getting by that of Brian Lynch. Lap driver staying extremely high, but how awkward is this going to be out the exit of turn number 4? Staying extremely low as Andrew Hess. Same for Scott Rickard. Going to be hurting both those drivers exit of the corners. Mainly that of Rickard gets the worst of it. Rickard gets the worst of it, as that is Scott's going to recalibrate. It's our top, that of 5 drivers, all still within about a second of one another. So we're coming up to around 40 laps to go. Talked about we were going to shout them out once again. That is our Saturday race coming up here, which is our Daytona 500. Zach, cannot believe that this event is already just a couple of days away.
I'm so excited, Sam. This is going to be great. You and Trevor up in the booth. It's going to be fantastic. Hopefully I'll come up there and join you guys for a little bit while I do some race control, and we get to see some great racing action for a great cause, and that is the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, folks. We've been raising money, and I'm so proud to say we are over that $800, and we're trying to get to a goal of 1,000. So if you're out there and you would like to donate, make sure you go and not only watch this race to help support us there, because that will help spread the word even more, but share it out to your friends and family. And let's try to make this a actual huge event here for our second annual event doing this charity race. It's a pleasure, and I'm sure all of us are ready to see how it all plays out with 43 drivers going out there to compete at Daytona.
You know, when we were prepping for this Daytona 500 event, we were saying, I think we can hit 43 drivers, but I think it's going to finally hit us once we get ready, we get into the session server, and we see all those drivers who all donated for this cause. It's going to be incredible to watch, and as well trying to shout out the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, because it's such a great foundation trying to help find a cure for diabetes for juveniles and everyone, just to find a cure for that terrible disease. And as well, for the extra money that they get, it also helps families that are having troubles with getting any type of dosage or just financial needs to survive with that terrible disease. Big thanks to that of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Cannot wait for Saturday, but for tonight, it's less than 40 laps to go. A couple of drivers have parked it, called it a night. That of Brian Scalise, Richard Hertz have both added to the fray of Ed Perry and Dylan Glass. A driver going on a very odd strategy. It's Diego Valle, had to come into pit road, spun out while trying to get into pit road, had extended time and black flag entering pit road. Now, I'm hearing over the radio, Zach, we could be seeing pit stops here.
We very well possibly could. I mean, maybe the fuel is not going to work out to their favor, or they just feel like the tires won't get to that point. We did see around a 65 lap run earlier, so that would be much longer than what we have to do if we want to get to the end of this race. At the moment, 43 laps in. But we will very well see how it all shakes out if pit road does get very busy. But Thomas Ogle, I mean, just driving away here at the moment, just in clear track, and loving what I'm seeing from him. And you know, while we were sitting here, I looked up a little bit of stats on him. I knew he never had got a win here at Stars and Stripes, but you know, I look back to he's got third place finishes as his best finish ever at Bristol and Pocono, and I think he's got to look back to Bristol as the one that got away. I mean, led 295 of the 500 laps there, and tonight on this concrete surface, it seems to be translating over. He could possibly go get that first Stars and Stripes victory.
Yeah, I mean, he's been so fast at times. He was kind of the driver that we expected to be one of the big threats heading into last season and late into the playoffs, but the cards just didn't line up for that of the 31. But here this season, I mean, he has been showing a lot of consistency that he showed last season. We knew that it was possible. Thomas Ogle, that of, you know, Andrew Hess, probably the two drivers that are next on the list of trying to get their first win ever in this series. And I think it's very likely with the way that they're running right now that it's going to happen one of these couple of races that are coming up. And as the laps continue to tick away, Thomas Ogle second ahead of Dylan Grimm as they go into turn number 1. And speaking of the rest of the season, we're going to Atlanta. That's going to be our next destination for these drivers. I mean, Rockingham, which is going to be the next destination, then Atlanta, and then Las Vegas. These are going to be three very interesting racetracks to see how the field can adapt after leaving the concrete monster mile.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do adapt, Sam. I think that'll be a fun time for sure. It's definitely getting a little bit spicy there. Is the one of Nate Lynch. He's trying to make something happen here on the 6 of Will Bustler. You also got the 41 of Jonathan Woods, as there was contact back here in the background with the one machine battling with that 6. You also got Jonathan Woods making a great recovery after his incident earlier with his teammate Ross Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, these are just incredible runs drivers are having, just not giving up. And some of the cautions and the way they've lined up has allowed these drivers to continue to fight back for themselves. I mean, even drivers behind, you saw that little group, Trey Jackson and Derek Offerman, able to get by that of Kevin O'Keefe, who I think might have been a little bit too aggressive on his tires after being involved with the wreck. And Zach, it just seems like drivers caught up in wrecks, got fresh rubber, tried to make some big moves to just gain track position, but there was just too much racing left that now with 30 laps to go, they're now going to just try to hope that these tires will last all the way to the end of the race.
You're so right about that, Sam. It is a track that can lure you into that factor of just going out there to put down fast lap times, and that sometimes can equate to some bad situations as the 77 trying to get back here after being 3 laps down. And use those new tires. Got a close call there between him and Kevin O'Keefe there as Kevin O'Keefe now has Aaron Hill in the 40, who is running him down, looking to maybe take away this 14th position. And if Aaron Hill can get out here with a top 15, close to the top 10, I think he'll be satisfied with the night after being wrecked.
Yeah, and you got to give credit on the fact that at least his wreck was early in the race, so he had time to come back. He was in pit road that forced him to be 3 laps down, got enough cautions to come out that gave him opportunities to get back onto the lead lap, and here in 14th, even with having to require damage flag, getting the damage repair, the 40 is on the move, trying to go forward. As see here of Kevin O'Keefe trying to stay steady as that of Timmy McNally closing in on that 23 machine. And we look even deeper in the field. I mean, George Kovacic, a driver that's been around here at Stars and Stripes for a while. I know at super speedways is where we're usually seeing the 66 have great runs for himself, but I gotta say, gotta be thankful that he's having a better run than his average here at Dover. His average is around 20th position finish of the 3 starts that he's had here at Dover, running 19th. I think you can take that as a positive here tonight.
Very well could take that as a major positive, because Dover is just, I know drivers that struggle with this track that can never just seem to get out of the rut they're in. And whenever you can get a net gain off of what you previously have done here, you're going to be happy leaving this very tough facility. So we'll see Ken Kovacic close up on Wade. Right now, he's actually quicker than Chris Roy directly ahead of him. So if he can go up here and get 18th, that'd be a good sight to see there for the 66 of George Kovacic. And we'll see how it works out, because he's got time to do it. Here is there under 25 now laps to go.
Open to close in on that gap, but if the 66 best finish was 17th here at Dover, he has an opportunity to grab it. And speaking of grabbing positions, here comes the 5 of Andrew Hess. He's gotten by that of Ross Tatum about that of 10 laps ago. He's closed in on the gap of Dylan Grimm. At this moment, the fastest of our drivers and everyone on track is this 5 machine to the inside. He's trying to take second away, and Zach, it's now down to the 2 drivers that we've kind of been hyping up since the beginning of this race. It's that of Thomas Ogle, Andrew Hess. The 2 drivers have been so good at the long runs of these past couple of races. It looks like it's on.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, man. Andrew Hess, I mean, he has been a topic every single week when it comes to having speed at the end of a run. And that is something that I think is just carried from track to track to track. It'll be interesting to see if that happens for him at Rockingham next week, at a track that was notorious for tire wear. So that could be a place to circle his name heading into there. But, you got to give the man credit. I mean, right now, fastest car again on the racetrack there once he got past Grimm. Does he have enough time to run down Ogle? I don't know. It's about a 1.1 or about a second gap there as they head down into 3 and 4. It's going to, in my opinion, be tough, because once you get close to him, that's when that air and that dirty air starts to play a factor. But that last time by, I mean, it was almost 0.2 of a second. If he can continue that trend in these next 20 laps, he will be there battling for this win.
That's 20 laps. I mean, we've seen drivers be aggressive, putting down some burner times for about 15 laps, and then they start to fall off. I mean, Thomas Ogle right now seems, because he got this big of a lead, he's now going into a little bit of a safe mode, trying to just save these tires. I take that back. He just put down below a 25 lap time. Maybe Thomas Ogle's feeling the pressure, because he just put down a crazy fast time for the 31.
Yeah, I mean, he just went almost 0.3 faster than his previous lap. That's normal to see at Dover. And I think it might have been a case of what you're saying, Sam, where he's got a gap to now where he knows, the 17 didn't seem like he was going to catch him. So maybe it's just turned that wick up just that little bit more this last 2 laps, just to make sure he can hold that gap back to the 5, because he understands that 5 seems to be pretty quick and a very big threat on these longer runs. That last time by, it was the 5 who was 100th quicker, but 100th of a second is not going to get it done.
It's not going to be enough to get it done. But also, if we look at the differences of these drivers and how they're running, our top 2 drivers are putting down the fastest laps in basically the last 20 laps or so. They have been kind of hitting a plateau for most of the field, but this 31 and the 5, they have just turned it up, almost like Thomas Ogle is baiting the 5, like you said during that last interview that we had with the 31, of kind of just baiting to see, hey, will you put on it and try to catch up to me if I turn it up on the speed scale?
it has been impressive to see just Ogle's just calm, cool collectedness. I mean, another 25.039, and you know, you brought up the plateau factor. It's kind of, yeah, that's kind of been the trend personally all night. It's been right anywhere from the majority of our field around a 22.3 to a 25, or sorry, a 25.3 to a 25 flat here once these tires hit this range. And if you can keep it in that 25.0 region, it seems like you're in a very good position to be fast on the longer runs. And Thomas Ogle, he's just been the class of the field with that. He's been the most consistent, but the thing that he has got to worry now about is he's coming up on a ton of traffic right directly ahead of him. And this is a track where when you get traffic, it can affect those aerodynamics. Luckily, he gets past the 22 of Brian Lynch there very quickly, but as he gets closer to the drivers up ahead of him, it will get tougher and tougher possibly.
It should be getting tougher and tougher, and if you've been watching us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting this week, even last night, lap traffic was a factor that changed up the race last night, that made it a lot closer for the Wicked Racing League. That could be something to watch out for, because drivers are staying side by side. You see that Kevin O'Keefe staying up on the outside wall, the 23 looking slow, and he's going to hold on the outside, forcing a little bit of a shallow run for Thomas Ogle. That's going to hurt his center of the corner. And now, this is the time to gain for that of Andrew Hess.
Andrew Hess did gain a little bit of time there over that number 31. And the 23 having major issues off the screen as he, I think, has had a tire issue. He has blown a tire, folks. That is definitely what has happened to this 23 machine as he's hitting pit road. This is going to be a fear for some of these other drivers who are starting to fall into that slower bracket of times. It really is starting to show tire wear is becoming a huge factor.
And when we had our first green flag pit stops all the way back around that of lap 80, around that of lap 65, this was around that time. Drivers at this current moment on their tire stint have been running about 60 to 62 laps of green flag racing on these tires. And if you've been aggressive, you've been pushing these tires, you're in trouble of seeing your tire go kaput and having issues. So Thomas Ogle, he's got to even be in more kind of a scare being around lap traffic that have been pushing their tires, have been very aggressive, and maybe have been struggling to protect and preserve to make it to the end.
If you're Thomas Ogle, you got to make sure to try to make these passes on the bottom. If you're, you cannot be on the outside of somebody when they blow a tire. If they blow a tire and you're to the outside of them, you could easily be taken out. And through all this traffic, Hess has just gained a ton of time. It's down to 0.6 of a second here, and they're going to be coming out of here and get 10 laps to go as he just got past Christopher Wade. He's going to have one more car here to really have to deal with, and that'll be George Kovacic in the 66. He'll catch him within the next few laps, but Andrew Hess just right now finding the groove he needs, but he's got to get around the 15 quickly here down the back straightaway.
Gonna go with a little bit of a more shallow entry into turn number 3 is that of Andrew Hess, but the gap has shrunk by about a half a second, but it's still plenty big enough of a gap. If this continues at this pace, Andrew Hess should be just right on the back bumper, but there's not a lot more lap traffic to help this 5 machine. He's got to hope that Thomas Ogle's been burning off this rubber. 9 laps to go, coming up to that of 8 laps to go when they cross the line. As the Monster Mile 200, they've ran 192 laps of great racing, and now at the start of 193, 8 more to go, Zach, and it's all Thomas Ogle at this time.
Thomas Ogle, that's all we have been saying tonight, because this man has been on fire, folks. He is looking to get that first victory here at the Stars and Stripes Racing Series, and what a job to do it in dominating fashion so far. But he's just got to navigate a little bit more lap traffic. Here comes the 66 of Kovacic. That right there checked him up a good bit, having to make sure he exited low on that corner. Andrew Hess gaining there through that pass. But once Ogle gets past him, this is where Ogle starts to open up the gap. It's going to have to take a mistake, in my opinion, for that 5 to get a chance, because this 31 in clear traffic has been fantastic.
And there's not a lot of traffic to worry about. The next lap car is almost a full straightaway ahead. That's going to be Joshua Robinson, who's back in 16th place. So for Thomas Ogle, he should be all clear for the next 6 laps as Andrew Hess able to try to make the pass here. Not a clean transition, losing a little bit of ground there on the back stretch as the 5 to our leader The gap almost building back up to a second as Andrew Hess, the clock is ticking. 5 laps to go for the 5 machine to catch up to Thomas Ogle.
Every little shake, every little vibration is starting to come into Thomas Ogle's head right now. He's knowing all those times he's made those simple mistakes that possibly have took him out of a chance for a victory. The times he's led laps where he's felt like this has been his opportunity just have never played out. But will tonight be his shot here to get that first victory? As a driver, that when you're coming to that first victory, the thoughts running through your head can be so tough to control. Can he keep it together here? As right now, he was about 100th faster than Hess and doing exactly what that 31 needs here to hold back the 5.
I mean, this 31 was a rookie last season and was part of a very strong rookie class that just was so consistent up front. You thought maybe every single one of those rookie drivers were going to get themselves into victory lane, but it was the 31 that was one of the few that never was able to cross over that barrier. And with 3 to go here tonight, Thomas Ogle, he's got one more opportunity. He's just got to get around this track cleanly and again hope that those tires are gonna hold as the rest of the field are all crossing their fingers as well. 2 laps to go here at Dover.
2 miles left here at Dover Downs. Can Thomas Ogle bring it back to the checker flag? That last time by, it was 0.06 of a second separating them, and it's going to have to take a hefty mistake from this 31 if the 5 wants a shot down to 3 and 4 for the penultimate time. Here's Thomas Ogle going to be looking up to the flag stand.
Thomas Ogle at turn number 4. He has been looking clean and he has been dominating. Your freaky fast white flag in the air. The gap has stayed steady. Thomas Ogle has been dominating this race. Ever since he took the lead, he never wanted to give it up, and he's led practically almost every single lap and through 3 and 4. Thomas Ogle no longer has to wait. If he's going to become a winner of the Stars and Stripes Series, he will be one. And booking his ticket to the playoffs is Thomas Ogle.
What a drive. That was a dominating performance, folks. Started in the 3rd position and just got to that lead and never gave it up from that point on. I mean, you got to commend Andrew Hess. He's been, I think, the story of the season when it comes to these long runs. But it was Thomas Ogle who outshined him here tonight. And what a way to get a first victory at Dover. That is got to be a good feeling for somebody who probably felt like they just were so close last season in that next-gen car getting a victory, but just couldn't come up with it. Now, here in the ARCA car in Season 6, he is a race winner.
He's a race winner, and as well, I mean, this has been a long journey for himself to finally get this win. For his career coming into the night, he averaged a 6th place finish, which if you're averaging 6th place, you'd think you'd get at least 1 win at some point. Was not able to get it done. Like you said, felt like Bristol was that time that he was going to get that win. It didn't happen at Bristol, but it happens at the next short track. He kind of wanted a bigger Bristol, but it's in the concrete. Here it is going to be Thomas Ogle winning at Dover. Congratulations to that 31 as well to Andrew Hess for 2nd place. We're going to step aside for a quick moment. When we come back, it's the post-race show. We'll talk to our top 2 and a spotlight driver. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Post Race Show on Freaky Fast Broadcasting for that of the Stars and Stripes throwback season for that of season 6 of the Stars and Stripes series. As Thomas Ogle gets his first win in Stars and Stripes history. We thought maybe he would get it last season, was not able to do so, but this season he conquers that mountain. Thomas Ogle, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. You are a Stars and Stripes winner, man. How are you feeling after that one?
Kind of just relieved because I've like been fighting to get one so long, and it's hard, man. These guys are tough. I mean, I feel like you just got to run so hard. I ran so hard every restart tonight, and it was like a different guy pushing me.
That it really was, Thomas. I tell you, man, congrats on the first win here at Stars and Stripes. That's always awesome to see. And you've been close so many times before. You've got 2 third-place finishes before this. And, we even look back at some of those stats. We've seen you finished, at Bristol. You led 295 of the 500 laps there. I mean, I'm not really comparing Bristol and Denver, but I mean, I would say still similar surfaces, high banked, concrete tracks. Do you think some of that carries over here to Dover, or just you think this was your night?
I do the concrete. I run good on those tracks for some reason, but also like a track where you kind of get in a rhythm and you can just drive lap after lap in the same rhythm like Bristol. Here you kind of get off and back on the gas, and it's just about rhythm for me. Like sometimes, I'm sure you guys saw, if I caught a lap car or something, it takes me like a little time to get back in my rhythm sometimes. But yeah, finally, it's just it's just relief, you know.
I mean, at this point, we thought for sure you were going to get a win. I mean, that was something that just based off your consistent runs that we've been seeing in last season and then into this season, we knew it was going to happen at some point. Did you think coming into this season, Dover was the track, or were there other tracks you kind of had circled
No,
up thinking maybe this was the place I could get my final first win?
I I'm Bristol's probably my favorite track, and I run good there, and I have a good line that I can run and I can pass. So I was just kind of going to participate in the races until we got to the last race at Bristol. Sad enough. I thought, boy, if I could make the final 4 or be close in points and we get to Bristol, I might have something to talk about.
Well, we get to talk about this. You get your win. You're going to be headed to the playoffs. Congratulations on that. And before we let you go, Thomas, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
My teammate, Brian, and Andrew, and also Josh, old Team Miata guy. They helped me out a lot. Just those guys that were behind me raced hard, but raced so clean. This is just a tough league, and they do a good job of putting it on, and you guys do a nice job of broadcasting it. It's a fun league. Tough, though. It is tough. Like, beating Scott is brutal. I just saw him behind me. I was just waiting. I saw Ross behind me. I'm just kind of waiting for those guys to, like, gain 2/10 on me and just drive past, you know? It's just kind of a relief to get a win.
Well, it's an incredible time, and I'm happy to say that I was able to be the call for that win. Incredible run, Thomas. Congratulations, and good luck next week on trying to get another win for yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
As we go from victory lane, we head to second place to a driver that's been fighting decline and another great consistent run. We got Andrew Hess with us. Andrew, second place. This 5 machine has just been so consistent this season. You've been around the top 10 almost every single race. You come away second. How are you feeling after this one?
To be honest, exhausted. That was that was a lot of hard racing there. Its track is so tough to pass, and like I kind of got lucky, and then me and Tom kind of drove away there at the end. But that was hard work.
Well, Andrew, man, it's been a excellent season, I think, up to this point for you. And I think I hit on it last time I talked to you too. But those long runs, man, it just seems to be your strength. And we have a track, in my opinion, that could kind of play into those strengths either next week at Rockingham. How do you feel about heading into that? Because I think a win is right around the corner for you.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the next couple tracks, and I think the long runs definitely play into my favor, especially in a car like this that where you see a little more tire wear. I think really plays into my hands. And then just having the confidence running, me and Tom run a long time together. So I think you kind of see some of that on the racetrack with strategy and the lines are running and how we're able to kind of pick stuff up because we don't put a lot of practice into it. We just kind of wing it. So I think that's the best way to do it.
Well, I mean, speaking of winging it, we saw that in the first half, the first 60 laps of this race. It seemed like you were in that pack that was kind of willing to stay patient and trying to look like saving tires. What was that transition from that long green flag run at around lap 65 to the end of the race on how you had to change things up?
Yeah, I definitely felt like that in the beginning there, just where people were letting off. I was like, oh, everyone's saving tires. And then once once we kind of got that restart after the first caution there, I think even Tom said something like, "Wow, I'm running a lot harder than I wanted to run," because everyone was just on top of each other, and it just seemed like there was like a pack of 4 or 5 of us that were you couldn't shake anyone. It was everyone right on your bumper, and I mean, good racing too. It's not like we got into each other, and it was pretty clean, and just needed to kind of space out and wait for people to kind of make a little mistake, and then you get the big run and kind of send it in there and give them room, and both of you come out the other side and never better.
Well, it was a blast for us to cover up in the booth. And again, congratulations on second place. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
I'll always start with you guys. You always do a great job, fantastic broadcasts, and always try to promote you guys the best I can, and hopefully get you guys some more views. So I appreciate that, and then thank for my team, Tom and Brian, and you can throw a little shout out to Josh, the old teammate. So I think he had a rough race, but uh, we're we're moving on to the next one. Looking forward to it.
Can't wait for it. That's going to be Andrew Hess in the 5 machine getting a second place finish. Congratulations on that, and good luck next week.
Thanks, guys.
As we go from second place, we go to our spotlight driver, who we decided to change things up because of a driver that had a great run, was able to have some recovery runs for themselves as well throughout the night. We're going to be heading to 6th place, where we get that of Jason Grattan with us. Jason, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. Congratulations on a 6th place run. You're one of the biggest movers of the night, up 10 positions. Man, how are you feeling after that one?
Happy to get out of there clean and with a good run finally. I've stepped on my toes a lot this season with pit road miscues or bad qualifying, so nice to put one together.
Yeah, it definitely was a great sight to see here tonight for yourself, Jason, man. Congrats on the good finish here. And looking back at last season where you were in the final four, we did make the switch in vehicles to the ARCA car. How has your transition been?
Comfort wise, I was really looking forward to this season in the ARCA car. I really enjoy it and feel like it suits my style at most tracks, but like I said, it's haven't been putting it together for good finishes, but I feel like if I can button up those issues and finish where I should be, I feel like I should hopefully be able to maintain my point position and point my way into the playoffs.
We're certainly hoping for that, Jason. I know next week is going to be a little bit of a tougher task heading over to the Rock at Rockingham. How are you feeling heading to another short track that's going to be a little bit more aggressive than it was tonight?
I think it's been quite a while since I've ran the ARCA car there, but I love the Rock. It's for some reason those wonky tracks that if you're in a pack, it's tough, but if I get good track position, I feel like it's a place that suits me and definitely one that I'm confident at, and kind of the same thing. As long as I don't step on my toes and tighten up the mistakes, I feel like I've got a good chance at another top 10 there for sure.
Well, tonight certainly showed that you're moving in the right direction, almost getting a top 5 finish for yourself. And before we let you go, Jason, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Guys putting on the league, you guys broadcasting us and hanging out with us every week, and everyone at home watching.
That's going to be the 8 machine of Jason Grattan coming away with a 6th place finish. Congratulations on a great finish here this season, one of your best so far. We hope this momentum continues on, and good luck next week at Rockingham.
Thanks, guys, and shout out to my teammates too. I forgot, but thanks, guys.
Well, thank you for giving us a great show. Again, that's going to be the 8 Machine of Jason Grad, our spotlight driver here this evening. As we go from our interviews, we head on over to the unofficial results where I saw a lot of ups and downs, and certainly our top 4 were drivers that we were watching battling with one another. But after that, things start to change up and switch up on how drivers had great recovery runs, some just not able to finish where they wanted. We saw fast drivers moving up the field, down the field. It was chaotic. We had a couple of big wrecks, but getting the win was that of Thomas Ogle in the 31. Andrew Hess going to come away with second. Dylan Graham going to finish out your top 3. Ross Tatum taking 4th. But then this is when things start to change up. That is Scott Ricker dropped from 5th all the way down to 8th place. His tires just were not there at the end. Moving up was going to be Kyle Bowling up to 5th. 6th is where Jason Gratton lied. Jonathan Woods caught up in some big wrecks there late. The 41 goes up to 7th place. 8th where Scott Rickard falls down to. Will Bustler caught up with some shenanigans with the 48. He's going to come away with 9th. And in 10th is Nate Lynch in the 1 Machine.
What a crazy finishing order this is. And an Aaron Hill at 11th. I mean, he was pretty much wrecked right at the beginning of this race. And he comes home with 11th. But then as you look down the list even farther, there's some guys who probably had some tough runs, like Joshua Robinson there at 16th, getting involved in that incident late. Yeah, Christopher Wade, who was fast at one point, finishing 19th. Kevin O'Keefe blew a tire in 20th. Diego Valle, last week's winner, he was caught up in a ton of messes here tonight. And then even Brian Scalise, we've seen, some tempers there between him and a few drivers. And it just shows you that Dover can get the best of some of us out there and just not be the greatest night. But they got a tough test heading up next week also.
That they do, heading to that of Rockingham. Talked about how Dover was one of 6 races that these drivers have ran at every single season. Rockingham, one of the 6 as well. Cannot wait to see how the drivers are going to handle that track, especially in the ARC cars, with how bumpy and aggressive that track can be. It's going to be a good test to see how the drivers can handle their tire wear, handle their steering wheels, and get themselves to finish up front. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. But I got to say, if you want to still continue watching us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, remember to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you're notified of when we go live or when our next content of video pops up. And as well, get prepared. Saturday, Zach, it's almost upon us.
That it is, Sam. This is the most important time of the year for us here. Is we're getting ready to have one of our biggest events and one of the most cherished events for us up here. As it hits close to home with all of us up here in the booth with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. So we're going to be raising money, trying to get to that $1,000 goal and get as far as we possibly can to help children out there with just that terrible disease that they're born with, and it's just a tough thing to live with. So definitely, folks out there, if you're not busy on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, make sure you tune back in here. We're going to be having a great time up in the booth. We're going to have Trevor and Sam having just doing an awesome job of the 500 miles there. And hopefully I'll get up there too for a little bit and help these guys out a little bit, as I'll be doing some race control out there. But man, it's just a pleasure to have it all come together now. And it's finally here for us to be able to kick off our 2nd annual event and get to show people the true heart behind sim racing, that it's all about, is because we're all just a giant family when it comes to the sim racing community.
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to see the sim racing community come together for great causes. Seen it in plenty of other events that come around. And again, like Zach said, this is our biggest event of the year. And we're so happy to have our 2nd annual charity event. Last year was a 6 hours endurance race. This go around, it is 500 miles at Daytona for the Daytona 500. Going to be helping out the charity event for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Again, it's 6 p.m. Eastern. Go check that out. And if once you're done watching that, come back on Monday. That's when the ISRC Truck Series is going to be heading to Japan. Twin Ring Motegi is their next destination. Tuesday's going to have an off day, as that's Valentine's. Going to allow everyone to be with their special somebody. Then going to be on Wednesday, Wicked Racing League is back to hard racing, as they've had a couple of hard, aggressive races the last couple of weeks. Then on that of Thursday, right back here, excited to give you more racing coverage of the Stars and Stripes series. Zach, a crazy couple of races, but we're inching closer, crazy to say this, to the halfway point of this regular season.
That it has, Sam. It's getting there ever closer every week, and it's kind of like you said, kind of crazy because this was the first series we had to start back up for the new year here, 2023, and it's been a blast with the nostalgic paint schemes, the throwback to that 2003 season in the early 2000s. It's been a pleasure to call. We've had a lot of different things going on with drivers. I mean, we've had some first time winners like we had here tonight with really two back to back first time winners. So and then you've also had Scott Rickard, the reemergence of him with, his victories. So it's been a pleasure to call, and I cannot wait to get closer and closer to this playoffs because that's where the real time starts and begins.
When the drama starts to ramp up, who's going to win the championship? Those questions start to ring a little bit louder, but it's still in a couple of months once we get to the playoffs. But man, gotta say thank you for everyone that has been joining us here this evening on your Thursday night. Thank you for joining us, and for myself, Sam Dyer, for Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you Saturday, charity racing at Daytona.